Telecommunications fair FITELVEN continues in Venezuela, boosting the cooperation at a national and regional level on key technological areas. Our correspondent Ana Marrero is there to tell us all about it.
Well, we are at the FITELVEN 2025 and the people has came here to learn about what is technology, telecommunication, fiber optics, robotics too, and this has been so futuristic. It really has been. We have a lot of things here. The people that have came are just learning about technology, telecommunication, and well, this has been really mixed topics in here. We had earlier the battle of the ones that can build a system of fiber optics the most fast as they can. Here are some of the staff. There are more than 100 staff and more than 100 enterprises that are here at the FITELVEN 2025. And we have more information because we'll be covering this event tomorrow, Saturday, and on Sunday, which is the last day. And we think we have much more activities. So more information to you next.
The historical experience that in all the working fronts of the Communist Party of Cuba and the Cuban Revolution with the Socialist United Party of Venezuela, the Great Patriotic Polo, and the Bolivarian Revolution. My wife Celia is also here, who is also a member of the National Direction and the Political Bureau. We also have to tune all the plans in the matters of formation, for example, with the system of formation that Cuba has experimented with for decades for those responsible for the party and the youth to make and educate their leadership and tune the experiences, the common experiences, also to join the youths, the UJC with the socialist youth in all of the plans that we have for exchange from our youth leadership. We also have very beautiful experiences here today in the communities, the communes and the territory, the youth teams of the communes, looking for that youth that was born and grew up with social media, connected, and they also have good part of the lives being connected with social media and the capacity of influence, not just with information. It's a youth that has grown overstimulated with emotions and information, so there needs to be a very special work done in the community from the youth and to the youth. We have to exchange experiences there. Also the international work, Emilio, that I know from 80 years ago. Emilio. And all of the international work, Daniel. Today, our peoples are facing a war that they call multi-shaped. Some call it hybrid war. Those who build geopolitical concepts, they give different shapes. The truth is that it is an immoral war to try and destroy the most beautiful thing that the history of our people have had, that is a revolution inspired in Bolivar and in Martí, that had as its founders these two giants that are here, that could coincide in their historical times. Bolivar and Martí weren't able to coincide in their historical times. They coincided in something bigger, and that was the ideal of the absolute independence of America. Martí was the biggest Bolivarian that existed on the face of the earth in the 19th century. and in a very wonderful way, one would say incredible, he managed to know the challenges of the South American War and the Bolivarian, and he managed to know very intimately and profoundly the sentiment and the thought of the great Simón Bolívar. The Simón Bolívar that we have here in this painting, that is almost an original portrait painted by a Colombian painter who was a soldier of the independent army in South America, and when they returned to Bogota in 1927, well, they started developing his skill as a plastic artist, and he was the best one in Colombia in the 19th century. That soldier Espinosa painted many paintings of the libertarian in Bogota. Martí, it's impressive how he captures deeply the essence of the being Bolívar, of the extraordinary being that was Bolívar, and projects it till the future and grabs the sacred flame that Chavez and Fidel talked about. He grabs it as his own flame and takes it to its maximum expression in the push of the necessary war to liberate Cuba. That's a concept that we always have to have present, the concept of Martí and the necessary war to the liberation, for the liberation of the people, of the justice, of when people take arms to defend themselves and to look with dignity for their independence in this case. So it's a lot what joins us. These two giants, they managed to coincide physically in the same historical time, and they did a lot. With the intelligence, the boldness, and the bravery that characterized them in a very big way, both of them together. It is impressive to see the history of Fidel. Soon it's going to be 65 years of his stepping through New York when he went to the Hotel Teresa where he met Malcolm X, where Nikita Khrushchev went to visit him. Right was Nikita Khrushchev. In the neighborhood of the Bronx, a black neighborhood. One has to look at Fidel's trajectory, that authenticity. They couldn't take him down, never. The imperialism, and people screamed, what does Fidel have? What does he have that imperialism couldn't take him down? He decided everything in his life. Wonderful. Extraterrestrial beings. And he also met another extraterrestrial being and identified him very soon, since he met them that night of December 13 of 1994 in the stairs of the airport Jose Marti. And from the first hug they were joined. That's where the new Latin American era was founded, the one that we're currently living. December 13th of 1994. It's been 30 years, Piñata. 30 years. 9 months. And 6 days. With an hour. That's where a new era was founded. The era is birthing a heart, and it's continuing to birth that heart with a lot of strength. And the responsibility that we have is bigger than the one that they had. No one here believes that we have any less responsibility than Fidel Chavez, Bolívar, and Martí, because it's one path. If the best writer in the history of humanity, let's say Cervantes and Garcia Marquez, to write a historical bestseller I think they would not compare to the lives of our revolution and of our people and of our leaders. If you sum Bolívar and Martí in one bestseller of 200 chapters for Netflix, and then you add another 200 chapters of Fidel y Chávez, well, it would be a hit, the hit of the century. But it's not the invention of a writer, it's an invention of history. So the history that we have is very big, and it's what supremacists haven't been able to understand. And I tell them, let them not understand. It's better if they don't understand. It's better if they keep underestimating us. While they keep underestimating us, we will continue moving forward, resisting, fighting, helping each other, getting together as brothers, because if there's been in any moment in the revolutionary politics of Latin America, you can say that there's brother people is the people of Cuba and of Venezuela, the countries of Cuba and Venezuela, and the parties of Cuba and Venezuela completely. So the responsibility of us today is to it's bigger than those of the founders. So we have to get together, join our people, our working class, join our farmers, join the experiences of the CDRs, of the communes, of the communities, join the formational experiences of the party, of the youth, and beyond. I know it very well. I know it. And this one who's here also knows it, Eduardo Piñate. We have to join the capacity of defending the truths of our country in the world in a joint way. We can do a lot more, Tania, Emilio, a lot more to denounce the great violations of international law, of humanitarian international law that are being committed against the people of Cuba, against the people of Venezuela, against the people of Nicaragua, against the people of Dialba. We can always do a lot more, and we're always obligated to do a lot more. What we have to turn on is our inventive, our collective intelligence, our initiative, permanent. We should never lose our initiative. And I'm certain, more than certain, that joining our experiences, our capacities, our efforts, we are going to go to a superior level and take the original project of the great Bolivar, of the apostle, and of the giants to a higher level, Fidel and Chávez. The project, the original project that we vindicated as a big flag, as an invincible one of the people of Latin America and the Caribbean. We are facing mobsters that are very immoral. We know that they are trying to throw their mud and their dirt on our people, on our process, and on ourselves. That's their immorality, and we here have our moral strength with our truth, with our ethics, and with our love. We're not moved by hate. We are moved by love, but a love of warriors. We are warriors of love and warriors of the big homeland, fierce warriors of the homeland. Let them not be mistaken. The immoral mafias and very corrupt that are attacking us from the north. We are fierce warriors of love and of peace, because in the end we always say the peace is our triumph, as the libertarian said. The peace is always and has always been and will be our said in his concept of the necessary war. We're accepting documents and books that you can send us, because Martí is very interesting. He was a very humane person, a poet. Picture a poet, a humane poet that started discovering the monster from the insides and started seeing the dangers of us all ending being colonies of a new empire. As he saw, it was his last letter to his friend Manuel Mercado. He told him to stop with Cuba's freedom, of all of us falling in the hands of that of the north. And you want say agree. Well, thank you very much, President, for this great opportunity to the delegation of the Communist Party of Cuba that is integrated by the President of the Organizational Commission of the 22nd Congress of the Central of Workers in Cuba, the first Secretary of the National Committee of the Communist Youth, and even if he's part of the party, the first vice dean of the university of the party that you know very well, the Nico Lopez. But we wanted to start giving you a very affectionate greeting to you, the rest of the comrades of the Socialist United Party of Venezuela, the PSUV, the rest of the government, and the rest of the Venezuelan people, in the name of the leader of the Cuban Revolution, the General Raúl Castro Ruz, and also from our dear first secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party in Cuba and President of the Republic, the Comrade Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez, that today during midday called us and was interested in our visit, and we were telling him all of the activities, and we were reiterating once again, and he reiterated once again, to express to you and the rest of the direction of the PSUV and the government, the National Assembly, and the institutions, the armed institutions of Venezuela, the unchangeable decision of the Cuban Revolution, the party, the Communist Party of Cuba, the government, the state, and of the Cuban people to accompany the people of Venezuela in its Bolivarian revolution, the government that you are the head of, and of course those who we have appreciated with a lot of admiration, which is the popular military and police fusion as a guarantee of the continuity of the legacy of the eternal President Hugo Rafael Chávez Fría. And all of this we have appreciated it in the different meetings that we have had with the leaders of the party and of the National Assembly, with the mayor of Caracas. Today we had the chance of meeting her, and with the direction of the International University of the Communications. And I say this because in the middle of all this very complex scenario, it is very admirable the way that you and the rest of the leaders, Venezuelan leaders, have faced each one of these aggressions, political, diplomatic, psychological, and military, and that speaks once again of how alive, as you have expressed, is the legacy of Bolivar, the legacy of the eternal commander Hugo Rafael Chávez Frías, but also to Cubans is very present what Martí expressed in that historical trip here to Caracas, Venezuela, when he gave an homage to Simón Bolívar and expressed to him, "Tell me, Venezuelan, what I can serve you." And today we reiterate that Venezuela tell us how we can serve us, and we ratify what in the reflections of August the 5th of 2009, our chief commander Fidel Castro told us about the dangers of the military bases in Latin America and titled it Seven Stabs in the Heart of America. You probably remember that, and in that reflection he convoked the people of Cuba that for Venezuela we should give everything. Have the confidence that the direction of our party, of our state, of our government, and very especially the people of Cuba, that next week will start a process of signing in the support to the declaration of the government that you mentioned yesterday, so that not only that it constitutes a saying of the direction of our country, but also of all of the people as a backing on the people of Venezuela and all of the aggressions that you are currently facing. And by finishing that process, we will send you all the books with those signatures that will probably be millions of Cuban men and women who will sign, but not only the calling of the declaration of the government is for the Cuban people, is also for the international community, is for the country who are part of ALBA, and also those who are part of CELAC, and to all the people in government that defend the peace as Venezuela and Cuba both defended. Thank you very much to you for having us, and keep and always count on Cuba with its people and with its revolution. Thank you very much.
Hello, join us as we go to Cuba. The recent iconic singer and songwriter Silvio Rodriguez is offering a massive concert at the steps of the University of Havana. Our correspondent Belén de los Santos is there and has all the latest details.
Hello, studios. I'm coming to you from the Cuban capital, specifically from the steps of the university, and they are truly filled with people because everyone is expecting the concert of iconic songwriter and singer Silvio Rodriguez. He is beginning his Latin American tour, and he's doing that from here, from Havana, as it is tradition for his tours to start or end in Cuba, the country that has inspired so many of his songs and ideas, that have inspired so many across the continent. So that is what everyone is expecting right now, and we will of course continue to bring you all the information. Actually, the students of Havana have prepared with posters. It is truly filled with young people and young generations that speaks to the relevance of Silvio also in those sectors of society. So we will continue to bring you all the information. Stay tuned in teleSUR English.
Thank you, Belle, for all the information. We will keep in contact for more of this much awaited concert. This is all for the moment, but stay tuned with teleSUR English for more. Suspicion.
The United States government is always looking for new wars and launching new wars and deploying troops to fight in foreign countries, especially to generate money for the arm industry in the United States. And our politicians in the United States are willing to tell any lie that they need to convince the United States people that these wars are necessary, that no one in this country really wants. So it's pure propaganda.
And said, what's the situation of narco-trafficking inside the United States?
Well, what my book exposes is that it is an activity that happens inside of the most elite formations of the United States, and there's elite soldiers, officials also, that whose job is to drug traffic, especially inside of these military base in the United States. In North Carolina, that name is Fort Bragg, and it's the biggest base in the United States, but it's also the most important base because there are many organizations there, secret organizations that are based in that base. Like, for example, the Joint Special Operations Command, Delta Force, and other groups, military groups, that do clandestine missions, and inside of that community that they have discovered as networks of drug trafficking. And that's what my book is about.
And how did you make it to acquire that information?
It was a work of many years. Firstly, and especially, it's based on interviews with ex people from the community and their wives and women, like the mothers, the daughters of the soldiers, and even their sisters. Soldiers that have been assassinated there because there were a lot of homicides in the base, homicides linked with drug trafficking, and especially with interviews with them, and also with some of the men that were involved, and also with documents that I procured, obtained through petitions, legal petitions.
Why those murders?
The reasons can be all of those you mentioned before. For example, two of the soldiers that were killed inside of the Fort Bragg base, Bill Levine and Timothy Dumas, they had both written documents on the case of one of them, a book threatening to expose data, very hard data, on the conspiracy of drug trafficking between Afghanistan and the United States. The other one, Timothy Dumas, had written a letter to a general, a very high ranking general, very powerful, also threatening him to expose the same data, and they were both found lifeless. And to this date, the guilty are still not known.
The situation in Fort Bragg is equal or worse that since the book you released, something has changed ever since it was published?
The situation is the same. Nothing has changed till this date. Even in new cases of drug trafficking there have happened in the
Pressures.
It sometimes happens, but it doesn't change the fact that I write.
And what do you do this?
Because it's my job. I am an investigative journalist, and it wasn't my purpose to get myself involved or get into this subject that it's so dangerous, but it's what happened to me, and I'm going to continue doing my job and telling the story, the true story.
Do you believe that the people of the United States has a clear information of this that you're speaking about in your book?
Well, now they do, because that's my book, and it's been a success. We have sold many copies of the book, but I can say that yes, because for the first time, even though in the past there have been cases, similar cases, for example, in the 80s, on the complicity of the CIA with drug trafficking from Central America to California, for example. It's not the first time that it has happened in the history of
involvement. What do you know?
what I write in my book is that the DEA has done a cover up to to cover the sources of the heroin that was consumed in the United States for 20 years. The heroin really came from Afghanistan, but according to the DEA, it came from Mexico, which is not true. It's false. And I have one of the chapters of my book that
What have you known?
it's very difficult to say because all of those facts are very dark or covered up. But we can say that the drug trafficking is a market. It's not a collection of organizations, and the consume of drugs in the United States is on the base of the whole market, the world market of drugs. Without the demand of drugs, of buying drugs, there wouldn't be a supply of drugs in the world. It's also, as you suggested, the banks in the United States. They are involved with money laundering, and most of the money in the world that is earned through drug trafficking ends in the United States bank.
Denunciated and attacked.
Well, there exist these warnings in the United States, these campaigns to educate the people on the dangers of drugs. They do exist, but they are also the United States government, the State Department, and the Defense Department. They are motivated to create new wars and use any excuse that they can to have new operations and have more operations and more troop deployments, and this is the base of their aggression towards Venezuela. It's hard to say exactly, but we know that it can't be drugs, because if they were really worried for the drugs, they would attack Colombia or Ecuador, where they have their allies that are countries that are really exporting a lot of drugs or producing a lot of drugs, not Venezuela. But Venezuela does have a lot of petroleum, and that could be the reason for the aggression against Venezuela. I don't know, so maybe it is based on wanting the access to that petroleum.
The topic of fentanyl, the consumption and the production of fentanyl, what comments do you have?
Well, it's a very dangerous drug, more dangerous than all of the others, and we don't really know where it comes from. It's harder to trace. Yet it's harder to trace the tracks from where it comes from in the world, because it is a chemical and it's not done through a plant. It doesn't have a base, an agricultural base. But it's harder, it's more dangerous for consumers than even heroin.
Also, there is an element that is at least suspicious. That is that to produce cocaine, here we start off the coca leaf, in which it is added a whole procedure through they called precursors, chemical products, and in general those products they are imported from the United States. those enterprises that export of these chemical products that contribute to the creation of the cocaine generate enormous quantities of sales, and the money that enters from this business is huge, and that permits us to have suspicions that they are contributing in the issue of narco trafficking. However, there are no measures taken. In that sense, there's another proof that at least some of those actors inside of the United States are participating in the issue of narco trafficking with their production.
Well, I can't say much about the fentanyl because my book is about the 20 years between 2001 and 2021. And during that time, the main drug was the heroin. And what I can say is that during those years, the government of the United States lied about the sources of the drug, blaming Mexico, saying that all of the drugs were coming from Mexico, when in reality it was coming from Afghanistan. So it's possible that now, today, during these times, they're also lying. They're lying again about the sources of fentanyl. I don't know, it's a subject, a very complex one, and I don't want to talk about it without having the data, the real data.
Are you working another book, or are you some sort of investigation related to what you did in your first book?
Well, not yet, because I just published my book a month ago, and I haven't started with a new project.
And is this book, how it can be acquired inside of the United States or from abroad?
I don't know if it's possible to buy it outside of the United States, but I do know that if one has access to a Amazon account or Kindle, they can buy the electronic book. Then it's possible to get it through that way. And also, of course, they can buy it in the United States. I would like to translate the book into Spanish and have a Spanish edition, but we haven't done that.
In Venezuela, telecommunications fair FITEL-VEN continues in the country, boosting the cooperation at a national and regional level on key technological areas. Our correspondent Ana Marrero is there to tell us all about it.
Hello guys. Well, what can I tell? This has been a huge journey. We have everything in this place. We had a robot. We had again a battle of optical fiber competition. The ones that built the first one, it was creating a system of optical fiber, and there were companies competing. We interviewed the vice president of one of them, that was Thundernet. But well, we will continue informing, because it's not only for the personal activities, it's also for show that Venezuela is showing the support to the regional and international companies in telecommunications, in technologies, in some futuristic things that we just can't imagine, because there are just amazing and incredible things. We'll have more information too, because on Saturday and on Sunday we'll be covering here, because it's not the end. The end will be on Sunday, and well, we have more things to show. This is the last journey for today, but we were glad to be here, and we will be glad to be here tomorrow and on Sunday too. So back to the studios.
Now we go to the United States. The threats against free speech continue. The latest example was the indefinite cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel's late night show. Our correspondent Jorge Gestoso has more details on the subject.
Thank you. Here in Washington and all over the country, one subject was the main issue of discussion and controversy. We're talking freedom of expression granted by the First Amendment of the US Constitution, and possible censorship. Why? Because a very, very popular television show, the one of Jimmy Kimmel, every night on ABC, suddenly has been canceled after what it seems to be the reason. It was not officially admitted that was a reason, a joke made by Jimmy Kimmel, who said that the assassin of Charlie Kirk was a MAGA member. MAGA, Makes America Great Again, means the movement of Donald Trump. So that was meaning that one of themselves was killing another member of MAGA, that was this activist Charlie Kirk. And at that point, everybody from the right and everybody for the MAGA movement go around the country to start to denounce what they say that is discrimination, misinformation, wrongly use of the mass media, what they say that is the attack by the President of the United States, who say that 97% of the times that have been talked about him is negative, and he brought the possibility, he mentioned the possibility that because of all those incidents that is repeated lately, the licenses of the television networks could be revoked. And that exactly was creating the flurry about all the colleagues of Jimmy Kimmel, such as legends as David Letterman or Jay Leno, or even Stephen Colbert, that yesterday he said that this is pure censorship, put in the middle of the debate what is going on in terms of polarization in the United States. And the bottom line is that for many analysts, they believe that is the very dangerous episode, that they create the possibility of self-censorship for fear that the government of Donald Trump could put to impose sanctions on even consequences economically and in terms of personnel and employment, very, very dangerous. We get
Telecommunications fair